Hey everyone, Mitch coming in for the Rare Score Studio. Welcome to the show. So, I was wrong. Yesterday, I did an episode where I talked about what might be the last leak because it seemed like the leaks were going to be stopping and that Wizards had plugged the hole. But it appears instead that Wizards put out an article and then said, you know what, the leaks are happening, which I don't think has ever really happened, essentially. I can't remember that, at least. And it seems like instead of plugging the leak, we hit the iceberg, the Titanic is sinking, and Wizards is just playing, you know, with the band down as the ship goes. Yeah, leaks are still happening, so let's jump into them. So again, it seemed like apparently one source of leaks is gone, but now there's a new source of leaks? I don't know. Apparently on Facebook, some of these things are popping up. Again, with these leaks, I will say they're not confirmed to be real, but Wizards kind of confirmed that the leaks are real. So take everything I say with a grain of salt-ish. Anyways, Infested Thrinax, a 4/4 lizard with flash that costs 5 mana. It looks like it's going to be from one of the pre-cons. I believe that's what that symbol is. Let me know in the comments below if I'm wrong on that, though. That being said, it's on Golgari. When it enters the battlefield until end of turn, whenever a non-token creature you control dies, create a number of 1/1 green sapling creature tokens equal to that creature's power. Yeah, that's powerful. So, we've seen things like this in the past. Like, I'm thinking about that one. It's like that elf shaman or whatever that makes bears when your creatures die. That being said, this one, instead of counting just like the number of creatures you have that die, like Rise of the Dreadmarn's another one too, I guess, too. That's a spell. But we've seen this before, but it's based on the number of creatures that die. This is like, no. It's based off of, again, non-token creatures, but their power. So, my goodness, is this a spicy and very, very, very effective effect. Again, ETB just for that turn. So that is more limited than, say, like just, hey, it's just like in play. But yeah, the whole turn, you just get an absurd amount of saplings every single time one of your creatures dies. This seems like a slam dunk and aristocrat style decks that, I guess I should say, aristocrat style decks that aren't just focused entirely on just like tokens. Because like if you have a bunch of tokens that you're sacrificing for value, this doesn't help you with that because it has to be a non-token creature. Otherwise, obviously, this would go infinite. So, yeah, if you've got, like, big creatures and you have sacrifice outlets in your deck, consider this. I mean, even if you just have, like, a bunch of powerful creatures, that's a pretty good effect to be, like, a board wipe protection kind of in a way. Like, not protection, but, like, replacement. So, like, sure, someone casts a Wrath of God and you're like, oh, no. Well, I've got 40 power across all my creatures. All right, I'll flash this in, and of course, this counts its own power as well, so keep that in mind. So, yeah, 44 creatures then. Yeah, that person that cast that Wrath of God might be regretting that at a certain point, but what are they going to do? So, just replace your entire board with absurd amount of sampling. So, yes, I can see, again, certain types of aristocrat-style decks, go-wide strategies could like this one. Power matter strategies can, you know, utilize this one. Obviously, graveyard-centric decks that can bring things back could be, too. I mean, you probably could, like, could you sacrifice this, you know, with like a feigned death type effect as well and bring it back? And then when you do that, you get that ETB again. So then when your creatures die, you get twice as many saplings. I would assume that that's how that works. So, yeah, this is a very spicy. I'm sure there's some infinite combos that work well with it too. But, yeah, very spicy commander indeed. I guess technically a very simple infinite combo. Let's just talk about that right here just before I forget. Reassembling skeleton plus any kind of an anthem. Guy's anthem, whatever it is. Plus a sacrifice outlet. Yeah. Wait. Reselling skeleton. Yeah, guys. And then Phyrexian altar. So quite a few parts of that combo, but sure, it can work. Moving on. Broodmate Tyrant. Okay. A 5/5 dragon for 7 mana with flying. When enters the battlefield, create a 5/5 red dragon creature with flying. Oh, and by the way, Encore. So, yeah, this one costs 7. It does give you 10 total power across 2 bodies to start. But you can encore it out of your graveyard, which again means that essentially you're getting a token for each opponent. I mean, you get the tokens. You get 1 token per each opponent, I should say, which of course then ETB and make another 5/5 flyer. So you get to keep those tokens that they make, the 5/5 flying dragons. You don't get to keep the Broodmate Tyrants. I think, again, Encore is that exile or sacrifice at the end step, whatever it is. But yeah, you're getting, when you encore, what, 30 power that is flying across 6 bodies, and then you get to keep half of that permanently? That seems like a lot of value. Now, again, like, there have been an absurd amount of powerful dragons that have come out over the past couple of years. So, like, Dragon players out there, let me know. Will this even make the cut? Like, it's a very powerful effect. That being said, like, there's so many good dragons out there these days. Like, obviously, this could see play, I guess, in, like, a, big, powerful creature deck, because you're just getting, again, 10 power across 2 bodies, which is nice. A populate type of deck could utilize it, too. Yeah, but yeah, flying dragons. Lovely. Moving on. Gluttonous Hellkite. Speaking of dragons, here we go. A 3/3 dragon costing XX and Jund colors. Whenever you cast a spell, each player sacrifices X creatures. Gluttonous Hellkite enters the battlefield, 2 counters on it for each creature struck by this way, flying and trample. I did kind of like skim some of these, but also didn't read in detail some of them. So yeah, you're getting my gut reactions to these. And yeah, that's pretty spicy. Like, that is very mana intensive, right? So like at 5 mana, you're making every player sacrifice 1. At 7 mana, 2, and so on and so forth. So like, you are in green, obviously, got ways to ramp. I'd say typically you're going to probably cast this, at 7 or maybe 9, essentially. But keep in mind that you are sacrificing your own creatures as well. That being said, for every, I guess every 2 mana you put in, you get 2 counters, essentially. Or no, it's each creature sacrifices away. Sorry. So I guess if you were cast this at 5 still, everyone sacrifices 1 creature. Yeah, you could definitely do that as well. You're going to be getting, again, let's say everyone's got a creature, including you, sacrificing. So that's 4 creatures. That's 8 counters on it. So sure, I guess for 5 mana, you can get an 11/11 flying trample. So yes, maybe you'll cast it at 5 too. It's an interesting card though, because like, in a dragon tribal deck, you probably don't have a lot of creature fodder that you really want to sacrifice. Like, typically, you probably don't. You have some heavy hitters, so you're going to be sacrificing something decent. Yes, you get rid of some of your opponent's things as well. It's interesting. It's very interesting. Like, a power matters strategy, you could definitely consider this one. A sacrifice edict effect strategy, you could consider this one. It's interesting. +1 counters, obviously. Expelled, tribal, that kind of stuff as well. Next up, aggressive biomancy. A sorcery for XX and Simic colors. Apparently, we're getting a lot of X spells in this, leak, spoiler, whatever it is. Sorcery. Create X tokens or copies of target creature control, except they have, when this creature is in the battlefield, it fights up to 1 target creature you don't control. So you're only getting token copies of 1 creature. So it's kind of like, oh, goodness, why am I missing this? What's the one that you kick? Goodness gracious, how am I missing that? 4 mana, you kick it, you get 5 copies. Yeah, I just played against last night. Red Replication, there we go. X tokens are copies of 1 creature. So again, you're only copying 1 creature, which is fine. But at 4 mana, you get 1 copy. At 6, you get 2. That's probably about, about right-ish when it comes to making token copies. Like, it's 3 typically, but 6 for 2. That makes sense. The higher you go, obviously, the more value you're getting. That being said, it's also like removal, which is interesting with that. And fights up to, so you don't have to have it fight. But if you're copying a big giant creature, you're like, okay, cool. I have 4 copies that I made. Let's remove that, and that. You get to have like kind of like a mini board wipe with it as well, plus whatever other ETBs you might get from those creatures too. So it's a very interesting card. Again, like X spell tribal deck, big mana deck could definitely consider a spell like this. It's very spicy. Clones as well. Any kind of deck that really wants to make clones, like my Giganta deck, might want to utilize this as well if it's budget friendly. Moving on. Sawhorn Nemesis, a 2/4 dinosaur for 4 mana in red. Enters the battlefield, choose a player. If a source would deal damage to the chosen player or a permanent they control, it deals double that damage instead. Spicy. So there are, we have seen, what is it? Oh gosh, isn't there like an Aura Curse that basically does this as well? But yes, like a damage doubling effect on just a individual player. That's quite nice. Now this is kind of like, it has the stuffy doll problem, which isn't that big of a problem, I guess, but it is not as good as say like a Brash Taunter in those kind of circumstances. Stuffy doll has, ETB, you're choosing 1 player. Whenever Stuffy doll is dealt damage, it deals that much damage to that player. Once that player is dealt with, like, it's good to like deal with that player very quickly, and this is too, because again, it makes it so that every single, damage that is dealt to that permanent or that player or the permanents they control is doubled. Once that player is dealt with, if you don't have a way to reset this, then it loses a good amount of its value. Then it's just a 2/4 dinosaur that does nothing, essentially. That being said, like, if you have a way to maybe bounce it back to your hand, replay it, or blink it, or reanimate it, or whatnot, obviously, that's much better. That being said, yeah, if you're doing a dinosaur tribal deck, you might not utilize cards like those, which is okay. Like, it's still a good, solid card that, again, just says, oh, okay, I'm taking 1 player, in taking them down so quickly. Again, everyone is incentivized to maybe pile on that player a little bit because, yeah, your damage goes further against them and their permanents, so keep that in mind. It's a very interesting card. Yeah, cool. Anyways, dinosaurs. Next up, Pyrogoa. Okay, there we go. A Lurgoyf that kind of looks like a dinosaur-ish. Anyways, star, 1+ star, 3 and a red. Its power is equal to the number of card types among cards in all graveyards. Its toughness is equal to that number +1. It's the exact same thing as Lurgoyf, or Tarmogoyf, I should say, I believe. But whenever it or another Lurgoyf enters battle for control, that creature deals damage equal to its power to any target. So it's like Tarmogoyf plus War Storm Surge for Goyfs, if I could talk. Interesting. Very interesting. I mean, obviously, outside of, like, Lurgoyf Tribal, probably not going to see any play. Like, I guess Changeling Tribal, Lord decks, that kind of stuff could utilize it as well. But, yeah, it's a very interesting card, but it just seems like they're making a bunch of cards for a Lurgoyf deck, and that's what we're getting. So this is Lurgoyf Tribal. Congratulations. Next up, Exterminator Magmar. A 5/3 Phyrexian construct that's an artifact creature, and again, my apologies for mispronouncing anything, for 4 mana and Rakdos. Whenever you cast an instant source spell that targets only a single non-land permanent opponent controls, if another opponent controls one or more non-land permanents that spell could target, choose one of those permanents, copy that spell. The copy targets the chosen permanent. Interesting. This is very specific, and you can pay 1 and a black to regenerate. Apparently, we're bringing back regeneration. Interesting. So this is pretty fascinating. It's kind of like Zerda, Ink Treader, Nephilim-ish, but kind of the opposite, where, again, if you're just targeting something an opponent controls, again, single, non-land. I wonder why they specified non-land. Like, okay, I mean, maybe just to, like, not be mean in Commander, but, like, how many players are targeting lands? Anyways, single non-land permanent opponent controls, another opponent controls one or more non-land permanents. I guess that would just give, like, an automatic target then, like, if you're targeting a land, because the opponent's going to have a land. I don't know any decks out there that don't have any lands. Really. Yeah. Interesting. Basically, all of your removal spells double up, essentially. So, cool. Yeah. Get rid of one creature with a Terminate. You get rid of another creature for free with a Terminate. Like, what kind of decks want this? Ones that are heavy in removal, I would say. So, ones that are heavy in instant sorcery speed. Targeted removal from spells. There we go, if I could get there. Anyways, moving on. Tempt with Mayhem. An instant for 3 mana in red. So, did we already get this? No, we didn't. Tempting Offer. Choose target instant or spell. Each opponent may copy that spell and may choose 2 targets for the copy. You copy that spell once plus search time for each opponent who copied the spell this way. Choose targets for the copies you control. Okay, yeah, I forgot this is like Tempting Offer. Yeah. I immediately kind of realized what Tempting Offer was right there. But basically, very interesting. So, like, you can say, hey, that's a really cool spell. It might be yours, might be another opponent's, whatever it is. Let's copy that. Like, you are getting 1 copy no matter what. But then, I mean, you get plus initial. Yeah, so you get 1 no matter what. But you can say, if anyone else wants a copy of that, then I also get another copy of that. Very spicy, very interesting. Even just, like, say, like, an opponent casts, like, a Rampant Growth. And you're like, okay, let's make this interesting. All right, I'll get a copy of that. Does anyone else want a copy of that? Because if you do, then I get more. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's a very low to the ground example. You could have something much more spicy than that. Like someone casts, like Secure the Wastes. And I'm making 8 soldiers or warriors, whatever it is. And then you're like, okay, I will also do that. Does anyone else want 8 warriors? And then I will get even more. It's a very interesting spell. It can definitely be a big blowout effect. Very cool. Moving on. Bloodbraid Challenger. That's right, Bloodbraid Elf is back. Differently, though, apparently. A 4/3 Elf Berserker with Cascade, Haste for 5 mana, and Gruul. Escape for 5 mana and Gruul. Exile 3 across your graveyard. So, interesting. We're basically getting a repeatable Cascade out of the graveyard with that Escape. So, that's kind of like the main difference. Obviously, 1 mana is, different, obviously, compared to the other Bloodbraid. That being said, if you have a Cascade deck, if you have a deck that plays with the graveyard a little bit, that Escape, interesting. Yeah, interesting value here. Moving on, Eldrazi Confluence, an instant for 2 colorless. Pretty restrictive casting cost. It depends. It depends on your deck. Again, you might run a bunch of, was pointing the cons below yesterday, that, yeah, many people run Talismans. Obviously, yes, absolutely. Pain lands, those kinds of things as well. Look at your deck and to see how many colorless sources you have, because, yeah, I mean, 2 colorless mana can be decently difficult to actually come by, surprisingly. for certain decks. Choose 3. You may choose the same mode more than once. Like, for example, like I run a bunch of basic lands in many of my decks. Not wastes, you know, essentially, unless it's a colorless deck. And then most of my ramp, if not all of my ramp, is land ramp if I'm in green. So there you go. Target creature gets +3/-3 until end of turn. Exile target non-land permanent, then return it to the battlefield, tapped with owner's control. Create a 1/1 colorless Eldrazi sign creature token with sacrifice this creature, add colorless. Interesting. Yeah, so it could be either pump or removal for that first one. And again, you can choose 3, same mode more than once if you want to. So it could be removal for up to potentially even 3 creatures. The other one is like abuse 3 ETBs potentially, or like take a creature out of combat, or make it so they can't block. Again, because I can play tapped, or just make some, you know, science. So being able to kind of like ramp in a way as well, like temporary ramp, but still interesting, or like tokens. Yeah, it's interesting. It's flexible. I'm not sure how much play this is really going to see, I guess. Like, it is like a triple blink effect, technically. Like, so like a blink deck might want to consider it, but also like you already have a bunch of blinks that are lower to the ground, or you have like at 4 mana or even 3 mana, like ones that can blink your entire army. It is flexible. That can be removal though, or like ramp. I mean, outside of like an Eldrazi deck, which like might really want those scions, especially with one of the potential leaked commanders. Check out a previous episode on that one. Yeah, that one might really want the scions. But other than that, it's a very interesting card. Yeah, I'm not sold on it. Next up, Bismuth, mindrender, a 4/3 Eldrazi with devoid and menace that costs 4 mana in black. Whenever it deals combat to a player, the player exiles card to the top of their library to exile a non-land card. You may cast that card by paying life equal to itself's mana value or paying its mana cost. That's spicy. Yeah, menace is definitely not perfect evasion, but it is decent. And of course, like if you give like an additional source of evasion, like, you know, you give like flying to this as well, typically you're going to be able to get through on at least one player, you know, with that. So being able to swing through, hit someone, and then say, let's see what we hit, and I'm willing to pay life to, you know, cast a really good effect. I mean, you might get something low grade. You might just get a soul ring and be like, okay, cool. Like, yeah, I'll pay 1 life. Cool, I'll get a soul ring. Great, good for me. Or you might just hit like a confluence, an ultimatum. That's what I meant. I just went through confluences. An ultimatum. A big spell that you're like, oh, I'd never be able to cast that, but yeah, 7 life, sure, let's do that. You're going to definitely have some game-ending effects with this. Like, what kind of decks actually want to utilize this? Well, Eldrazi Tribal definitely might. Like, a deck that cares about casting things from exile or outside the hand. A deck that, you know, cares about actually losing life. There are decks out there that like to do that. Like life swap decks too. Or a deck that actually likes to steal your opponent's things. So all those kinds of decks might want to consider this one's a pretty spicy effect. Next up, Selective Obliteration, a sorcerer 5 mana, 3 colors, I should say. Each player chooses a color, then exile each permanent unless it's colorless or it's only the color its controller chose. Interesting. So yeah, a very selective board wipe, which makes sense with that name. Exile each permanent unless it's colorless. So colorless always sticks around. So if you're in a colorless deck, you get all the things, which is great. Or it's the only color its controller chose. Interesting. So yeah, everyone's choosing one. They get to pick those things. And other than that, it's gone. So yeah, it's pretty good. I mean, definitely for a colorless strategy, because you want to make sure that you take the most advantage out of this. Yeah, it's pretty good. And interesting. And again, keep in mind it is exiling permanents, which, I mean, for a typical board wipe, right? And again, it's every permanent too. So keep that in mind too. Okay, it keeps building up, being a little better and better, obviously. But yeah, everyone gets to like pick like and select, keep like their best things potentially, but like the other things are like permanently gone. And if you're playing a colorless deck, you keep everything, or I guess a 1 color deck too. Anyways, interesting. Next up, Mutated Cultist. Gross. A 1/3 Eldrazi horror with devoid that costs 3 mana in black. Whenever you cast the spell, remove all counters from up to 1 target permanent or opponent. So yeah, be nice and be like, hey, you've got those poison counters on you, right? And they're like, yeah, I'm at 9. And you're like, okay, those are gone because I'm nice. Now you owe me for the rest of your life. The next spell you cast this turn costs 1 less cast for each counter move this way. Death Touch. Interesting. So, I mean, this could end up being like a very big explosive play. It's very specific on what it does. Like, you could definitely whiff on this. There could be no permanents or no opponents with counters on them, and this does nothing except for being a 1/3. So, with Death Touch, yeah, this is, I think, too specific. Like, it is something that, like, this can combo. This can, again, it doesn't say, like, permanent and opponent controls. So, what is it? Dark Depths, the card that I couldn't think of the name yesterday for some reason. I kept like, Depths, Merit Lage, Dark Depths. Yeah, this could combo with that and be able to take off all those counters. So keep that in mind. So that's spicy. But yeah, it's a card. It's pretty specific. I don't know, other than like combos, where you're going to see play with this, unless you have an opponent. I mean, if you're playing against a player that has like experience counters, this can be a big, wipe against them. Essentially, be like, I've got my, deck where I'm just building up a bunch of counters for my. Oh gosh, now I'm just these names. Because Azuri, why can't I think of those? And they've got 8 counters. Cool. All right, take those away. And now my next spell costs 8 less. That can be a huge, massive, game-changing, massive play. But like, other than that, yeah, you might whiff. Moving on. These are ones, I'm going to point these out. These are ones that we've seen leaked before. They were really blurry images, though, and they're trying to get like the wording correct. So I'm just going to put these on the screen really quick and just go through them very quickly. If you haven't seen my episode on these, or I think one of my first episodes on these leaks, I just want to make sure that we get another image out there. It still doesn't technically mean that they're actually legit, but we're seeing a different source with this card now showing it as well. So that kind of leads to its credibility, in my opinion. And this is a lot easier to see. Anyways, 10-10 Eldrazi Vigilance, 4-10 Ward, sacrifice permanent, mana value 1 or greater. Tap, create a 10-10 colorless Eldrazi creature token. Kind of like that one, 10-10 that comes into play and makes another 10-10 Eldrazi-ish. But this one's like repeatable over time. Next up, Eldritch Immunity. Kindred instant Eldrazi for a single white mana. Target creature control gains protection from each color until end of turn, or you can overload it for your entire team for 5 mana. Yeah, it seems pretty good. Kind of like, white has a couple spells that kind of like give protection from colors, and this one's like, hey, give it to your entire team. Nice. Next up, Spawnbed Protector, a 6/8 Eldrazi for 7 mana. At the beginning of your end step, return up to 1 target Eldrazi creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Create 2/1/1 Eldrazi Scion creature tokens with sacrifice creature, add a colorless. Yeah, very good over time, making a lot of value, through those Eldrazi signs, and also bringing back Eldrazi. Eldrazi Tribal will want this. Next up, Twins of Discord, an 8/6 Eldrazi for 7 mana. Whenever you attack, choose odd or even creatures with mana value of that quality. Have we seen that wording before? I don't know if we have. Maybe we have. Can't block this turn. I like how it's like simple, concise, and that not, so it's like, choose if odd, if not, if choose even. Each other colorless creature you control is Bloodlust 2. Quite nice. I think I put Bloodless 3 because it was hard to read, so I apologize. Bloodless 2 is actually what the card is. This is very good for, your creatures and getting them through. So yeah, Giant Eldrazi would love to get through. And then also, again, if you have a colorless deck, if you've got like an artifact-centric creature deck, that can be quite good as well. The Bloodthirst 2. Eldrazi Monument, we're going to go through some reprints now that are apparently coming as well. Again, take everything I say with a grain of salt. An artifact for 5, creature control get ++1, have indestructible and flying, but at the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice creature can't sacrifice Eldrazi Monument. That is a massive effect. That is a huge, the Anthem's like little, like ++1. Flying is nice, though, get your creatures through, but indestructible, there aren't many ways to like get your entire team indestructible permanently. That's pretty amazing. So yeah, it's worth sacrificing that creature on every upkeep. And if you have like an aristocrat style deck, you might even just be like, cool, like I don't care, I'll sacrifice the creature, it's a good thing. Anyways, moving on. All is Dust, a crazy good card. Tribal Sorcery Eldrazi for 7 mana. Each player sacrifices all permanents they control that are 1 or more colors. Gross. Yeah, it's a very good card. It's a basically one-sided board wipe for you, essentially. If you're playing colorless and your other opponents like aren't. Forsaken Monument. Legendary artifact for 5. Colorless creature control +2. Whenever you tap a permanent for colorless, add initial colorless. Cast a colorless spell, gain 2 life. This is an absurdly good card, specifically in colorless decks. If it's not a colorless deck, it's an awful card. But if it's in a colorless deck, it's amazing. Ugin, the Ineffable. A 4 loyalty planeswalker. Ugin for 6 mana. Colorless spells you cast cost 2 less to cast. +1. Exile top card, rely your face down. Look at it. Create a 2/2 colorless spirit creature token. When that token leaves the battlefield, put the exile card in your hand. Destroy target permanents 1 or more colors for the -3. Yeah, it's a very good planeswalker, especially, again, obviously for colorless decks, that, cost reduction of 2 is massive. Morph on the Boundless, the tribal commander for all tribes, essentially. 6/6 shapeshifter that costs 7, it's a changeling. So it's every creature teller, enters battlefield, you say creature type, whatever creature type it is of the deck that you built around it. So show type cost Wooburg less to cast. The effect only reduces the amount of colored mana you pay. Other creatures control the chosen type get +1. So again, like a generic tribal commander for all tribes. Or if you're me, you build Morophon monuments and do some crazy things with Shrieking Drake, but that's just me. Anyways, Chromatic Lantern, another great card in Commander. Artifact for 3, taps for 1 mana in color, so not very efficient, not very effective. But what it is incredibly good at fixing all your mana. Lands you control have tap, add 1 mana of any color. That's a huge effect. So again, even though at 3 mana, this is basically a manalith, it perfectly fixes your mana, which is amazing if you're in, especially in a 5-color deck. Sifter of Skulls, a really cool card. Don't know why it's cut off at the bottom right there. Don't know if that's suspicious or not, but let's hope this is a reprint because I love this card. 4/3 with Devoid, Eldrazi for 4 mana and black. Whenever another non-token creature control dies, create a 1/1 colorless Eldrazi sign creature token. It has sacrifice creature, add a colorless. This one used to be budget friendly, isn't anymore. I would love it to be budget friendly. Please, 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 please drop the price with this reprint. And yeah, we shall see. This is a really good card for obviously Eldrazi decks, but also just aristocrat style, being able to replace your creatures with Eldrazi Scions, which you can then sacrifice for mana or just sacrifice with other things to get value out of them. Absolutely lovely. But now as this episode is coming to a close, it's time for me to hear from you. So in the comments below, let me know what your thoughts are on, this leak spoiler season stuff. This is very strange. Like, again, we have had times in the past, Return to Kamigawa always comes to mind with, one where, we had an absurd amount of leaks. But, I don't remember there being a point where, Wizards was like, hey, you, stop with the leaks. And that person was like, okay, I guess I should say that. This is speculation. This is, I don't know what happened with this, but it seems like whoever was leaking things posted something that seemed out, not what they immediately changed their mind on why they should be leaking or not. It seemed like a very PR statement. So it seems like, yeah, maybe Wizards, I'm not accusing Wizards of doing something, maybe they reached out to that person, was like, hey, stop it. And then it seemed like leaks were going to stop. And then they addressed the leaks to kind of get the story back under their control. And then they put an article out and they're like, hey, leaks are happening, but here we go. I'll show you some actual images of the cards. Awesome. Cool. Anyways. And then all right, leaks aren't going to happen anymore. And then all of a sudden, 5 minutes later, it's like, no, there's some more leaks over there now. Oh goodness. So yeah, the Titanic has hit the iceberg. It is sinking and leaks are everywhere. Play with the band, Wizards. Play with the band. Yeah. Let me know your thoughts are on all these in the comments below. Let me know your thoughts are on these leaks, these spoilers. And of course, as always, stay tuned to the channel for more exciting leaks, spoilers, whatever, everything in between. And of course, as always, thanks again and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG Player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.